Hello, welcome to the Dharma Gates podcast. My name is Aaron. I'm the executive director of Dharma Gates and one of the founders. And I've been recording these interviews over the last year or two, focusing on interviews with teachers and practitioners, largely in the US, but outside as well, who are holding practice communities, holding practice containers, and offer places where people can go, perspectives on practice, and contact points with sort of living Buddhist lineages. And I'm really delighted to be joined today by Zen Master Song Hyang, or Barbara Rhodes, who is currently the head of the Kwan Um School of Zen, and carrying the lineage of Master Seung Sahn, who's a very influential Korean Zen master. And yeah, very delighted to have a chance to talk a little bit about the Kwan Um School and also your new book, and happy to get into that as we go. But first, I'll do a little bit of a formal introduction of Barbara, or Song Hyang. Would you rather me use your Dharma name or Barbara on this interview?
Well, usually I'm called Bobby, actually. Bobby.
Bobby. Okay, Bobby Rhodes. Great. Um, okay, and yeah, I'll do a quick introduction and then we can move into some questions and then yeah, thanks for joining me. So Zen Master Song Hyang is the school Zen Master of the Kwan Um School of Zen. She received Dharma transmission from Zen Master Seung Sahn on October 10th of 1992. She was one of the first Zen Masters. She was one of Zen Master Seung Sahn's first American students and studied with him from the beginning in 1972. Was given Inca or Dharma transmission in 1977. A registered nurse since 1969. She currently works in hospice care. She helped found Providence Zen Center and lived there for 17 years, serving in a number of administrative capacities. Zen Master Song Hyang has a daughter and lives with her partner Mary in California. Mm. And yeah, thanks so much. Delighted to have the chance to talk a little bit. Mm. Well, maybe we can get into starting with, how did you land in this world of Buddhist practice, in this world of Zen practice, and what was the initial, seed or contact point, and then how did you end up connecting to Master Seung Sahn?
Well, I think when I was, thank you for inviting me, by the way. But when I was just maybe in sixth or seventh grade, I was really having a lot of trouble with the dogma in the Episcopal Church. And, I was taking confirmation and memorizing these prayers, and it was making me actually anxious. And I just couldn't believe, I didn't really, I mean, I guess I was kind of a deep thinker, but I couldn't understand. Like, I was trying to understand, how does somebody rise to heaven and then hold hands with God and all of that? It just wasn't making any sense to me. And I was questioning my parents about what is God, and they didn't really know how to answer me. And so I stopped going to church when I was about a junior in high school. And I just then I went to nursing school, and I saw a huge amount of suffering. I went to a diploma program back, and I graduated in 1969. So back then they had these 3-year programs where you got an associate's degree, but you spent a lot of time on the floors, on the wards, and had a lot of responsibility, actually. So I went through all the different disciplines. I saw children and everything. And I took care of one person who had immolated himself on the Capitol stairs steps, and he died right in front of me, and in his hospital room, and he had the clearest blue eyes, and just he couldn't speak. He was really sick, but he was still alert, and just to be with him, and I had gone to Vietnam, anti-Vietnam protests, and then I spent his last hours with him, and it really, like, what is this? I had a really strong question about what is the meaning of life, what is the point of life. And so I think having those really dramatic things happen in nursing school, and then when I got out of nursing school and started working, I also I moved to California. I had been in Washington, D.C. So I saw Martin Luther King. I didn't see him die, but I was in D.C. when he was killed, and I saw all that was going on right out of my dormitory window. And so it was a lot going on between 66 and 69 in politics. And then I went to California and worked for a Mexican American free clinic, taking care of farm laborers, and they were being poisoned by pesticides, and we were bringing notice. Cesar Chavez was busy then, and I just got involved and engaged with a lot of things that were so many things seemed unfair to me. And as I've been open about, I took psychedelics at that age when I was about 21 till I was 24, and that really opened me up. It really made I was working, and it wasn't like I was just hanging around taking drugs. I still worked full time and was very engaged in the community, but I would go off on weekends and walk around the redwood forests and be tripping, and I would just see. I saw then I started to see God, see the trees breathing and see the interconnection of all phenomena just by being there. And I started reading all these books about. I just got immediately interested in Buddhism, and on my own, really, I didn't meet a Buddhist, but there was some really good books. Suzuki Roshi's Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind had come out, and so I read that, and I just really, really liked that book. And so I read other Zen books. And so I eventually met my teacher just, in 1972. I was just very, very fortunate because he lived right near my parents in Rhode Island. So I went back east and met him, and I went there to help out my parents, and then I was looking for an apartment, and the apartment above his apartment was being rented. So I didn't rent it, but I smelled the incense, and I saw the shoes outside the door, and there's a little sign that said Zen Center. So I met him just amazingly. I just feel very, very fortunate that I met him because he was the genuine article, and he gave very good teaching. So that kind of, after that, I never left. I never left the school after that. So that's kind of a brief story, how I met him. I
Well,
met the German. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing. It's
Yeah, there was no dogma. I was like, well, there was no dogma, which I loved. It was like you didn't have to believe in anything, so I really liked that. Yeah.
I'm very curious to hear more about what was the practice like in those the kind of early days of I'm not sure when did Seung Sahn start teaching in the US? Were you
In 1972,
yeah,
he'd
so
only been
right
here
there at the
2 months.
beginning?
Yeah, I met him right. He'd been in the country about 2 months when I met him.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah. So nothing was formal when I first moved in. They were just still basically cleaning up the apartment, trying to get some cushions for the dormer room. And we had informal meals in the beginning, and but we started sitting every night and chanting. He taught us how to chant and how to do prostrations. And there was just like three or four of us. And so I thought prostrations it was totally foreign to me. I'd never seen anybody do a prostration, even a Muslim or anybody. And so I was just really impressed I didn't think I thought only monks did that. And then he said, no, you have to do that every day, 108 times. And so that's when the discipline started. So, after you do 108 prostrations, the first few days, your legs are like noodles, but it was really within a week, I was conditioned to be able to do those. And, I was finding it really helpful, making me very steady. I had a difficult job in a nursing home, and I was in charge of a 50-bed unit, and I was just a kid. I was 22, 24. And so I had to supervise all these people that were much older than I was. And it was a hard job. And so I'd come home, and then we'd sit at night, and we'd do prostrations and sit in the morning and chant. And I found it really, really helping me. And that Master Seung Sahn always, as I said, it was pretty informal, but well, he was doing it, so we did it. He was doing a formal practice, and then we began to make the schedule and eat the meals more formally, and just. But uh, I just found the effect of how I was doing at work. It was helping me, and he always talked about not checking and just going straight, don't know, like just when you're doing something, just do it. That was what he didn't have a lot of English, but he would say, only go straight, believe in yourself. When you're doing something, just do it. And those things are pretty easy to understand. Like, and then we have this thing about don't check, like don't self-evaluate, don't judge others, don't judge yourself. What are you doing just now? So that was so fantastic for a 24-year-old who's trying to run a 50-bed unit. I mean, I just kept prioritizing what had to be done and what I could do and how to ask for help. And the practice was just making me feel much more solid and much more available. So, yeah. So.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Mm.
I'm curious about, what was your connection with Master Seung Sahn like, and how did it develop over time?
Well, I was his student and he was very, very encouraging. He started giving us Kungan interviews from the very beginning and teaching us, I don't know how much, we don't have enough time to go into everything, but he taught us what we call primary point. It's in my book. I explain it pretty well in the book, but it's like, marking the moment with like in karate, you do a shout, you'd go, "Ugh," you just feel from your guts a shout. And so in Zen, there were a lot of Zen masters in the past that would shout. They call it "Kats," they go, like that, and just to cut off the students' thinking. But he'd ask us to kung on and ask us to just bang the floor with with our palm, just bang the floor, just mark the moment. Like on the computer, I've been just clapping, and sometimes you can't hear it. I don't know if you could. Can you hear that? You can just see me doing it, but it doesn't pick up on the microphone. But it's a very sharp clap, and then it our whole point is to start right from there, right from the before thinking place. Primary point is before thinking. So you just mark the moment without a thought, and then you just listen. And this takes, 2, 3 seconds. That's all. Where you just make zero with the primary point, then just listen. And what happens is you your intuition from your gut. When you're not just listening with your ears, you're listening to the moment, and you've accessed your intuition, which often comes from below your belly button. Just like you're not thinking, and then something just tells you, not in a verbal way, but just now do this, now do that, and it just gives you permission to flow into the next moment. So that's all. That's my relationship with the Master Seung Sahn was always encouraging the primary point and helping us with understanding the Kungans and working with the Kungans. And they're just they're just so, when I think of a way to explain Kungan practice, it's kind of like mathematics because it always adds up. There's a situation given and it's scrambled a little bit to make it a Kungan. It kind of tries to pull you to think this way or that way. But if you do the primary point and just don't know, maybe you don't answer the Kungan immediately, but maybe after a week or 2 weeks, all of a sudden you see what the point of it is, and without giving it away. It's a magnificent form of practice for me, and that's why I stayed with them as a Seung Sahn, because I wanted a teacher that taught Kungans. I had already read about Soto and Rinzai Zen, and I didn't know about Korean Zen, but I knew about Rinzai, and I was going to go to a Rinzai temple. I just had an affinity, just like I didn't like Christian dogma. I wanted to do, Rinzai Zen. Who knows? We have this, I don't know if it's past life or what, where you have these preferences. So Samsanim offered it in such a genuinely generous way, and he didn't act macho, or it was less severe than I've been to several Rinzai temples since. He encouraged me to visit Rinzai teachers and sit with them through the years, and I did. And the way he teaches is much more. It's I wouldn't call it gentle, but it's much more accessible. It's not intimidating, for one thing. It's not intimidating at all. And so I never wanted to leave. I never had any reason to ever leave the discipline and stay with him. And then he started leaving a lot and gave us all a lot of responsibility. When you read my biography, it's kind of, I met him in 72 and I was teaching in 77. That's like in most Zen traditions, you'd never promote a student that quickly, but he was a missionary, and so I knew enough Kongans that I could lead retreats with just the. I would never work with koans that I didn't hadn't already passed and appreciated. And so I knew the form, the schedule. I lived at the Zen Center, so I could lead a retreat very easily, really, and give interviews with the koans that I did know, and it just worked out. And I hopefully through the years I've gotten better at it. I never got any complaints even when I was only 27 years old. I don't know how it worked, but somehow it worked. I did let much more good than harm, I think. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
He was great. He really encouraged us to teach ourselves too. And I didn't want to do that. And I'm basically an introvert, but he was just so he just really wanted us to thrive. And I don't know. So that was basically what my relationship was with him. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious. I'm also a Zen practitioner. I've been practicing in the Japanese Soto lineage, the White Plum, for a number of years. And their retreats are usually in the US at least 6 days, 6 or 7. And I know Providence Zen Center is pretty well known and the Korean Zen form for the Kyolche 90-day practice periods. And curious, was that a big part of your training? And is that sort of a standard part of the training of people in that lineage to do
Well, it
take
was
home
when
for a retreat?
well,
Hmm.
the baby boomers, we were like very enthusiastic, and we had time. We weren't married, we didn't have children, and so a lot of Sansanim students when they first met him were not married and didn't have a lot of responsibilities. So we were able to do long retreats, and so it is a big part of our tradition. And I've done three 100-day solo retreats myself. And I worked, I just found I was just kind of on fire with wanting to do that. So the three solo retreats I did that were 100 days were very strict schedule, and I didn't veer off the schedule once, all 300 days. It was so helpful and so amazing, and did lots of prostrations, and a lot. I mean, a lot more than 108 a day. And then I've done like I think 3 or 4 kilches, 90-day kilches. And so I'm kind of unusual with how many long retreats I've done because I don't know why, but I'm always encouraging people. People now we let people come just for a week, and I can totally understand why they can only come for a week because they have children, in America the economy is not. When I was a nurse, I could buy a car and rent an apartment, or pay my dues at the Zen Center, no problem, and pay for my food. And now it's like people are living 3 or 4 in an apartment, and they don't have the money or the time that we had back then. It's really sad, but we have quite a few members, just in this country, and most of them are doing at least a week. We're getting them to come, and they get a lot out of just coming for a week. And then we always have some that'll do the whole 90 days. But I mean, this last winter, only 2 people did the whole 90 days. And some people came for 3 weeks or 2 weeks or 1 week. And, it's just, so it's not really 90. We have it, but there's not everybody's doing 90 days for sure, so.
And
A lot of our retreats are a day and a half. We end at noon on Sunday. They start early, maybe start Friday night, and they end at noon on Sunday. People have to get back home.
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's similar to how it is in the Soto
yeah,
Japanese tradition. Most of the retreats they're a week because that's what people can do.
yeah.
Um, well,
And that's where, isn't it? I mean, it's harder now for people to be able to
mhm.
take a whole because they only have 3 weeks off the whole year or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
So very hard. Yeah.
I'm curious actually to ask also about Providence Zen Center, and I know you're in California now, but I'm sure you're a good person to ask about the training and practice there now. And I believe there's a long-term residency program, and I'm wondering also, is there a track towards ordination and for people who are interested in sort of long-term training, is that still available, and what's that practice like?
Well, it's a lot of the majority of people that want to become a monastic, they go to Korea. We have a temple in Korea. Um, Musang Sa, and that's where people will usually go to train to be a monk. And then some of them come back to America. And two of the monks we have now trained in Korea. They live in Providence Zen Center, and they're wonderful. And they're excuse me, I'm just going to plug this. Um, and they so they both trained in Korea and then came back to the United States. We have someone living there now that kind of wants to become a monk, but again, they're encouraging him if he wants to, he should do the training in Korea and then come back. So
Hmm.
we don't have a formal training at Providence Zen Center. We just have residents that,
Hmm.
that practice. Yeah.
For the folks who go to Korea, they should learn Korean, I imagine, yeah?
No, it's all American. It's an
Oh.
American temple. Yeah. It's not affiliated with Korea at all. It was, but now it's totally independent. And
Mm.
even when it was affiliated formally, just for some of visa issues we might have over there, now they have complete permission to, to people can get visas to train there and everything. So, I mean, one of the abbot is actually Korean, but he speaks English as well. And it's mostly English speaking people. But there's a lot of Koreans, but most of them speak English,
Mhm.
are able to speak. But the abbot is Korean. He speaks fluent. His Korean's better than his English, but
Mhm.
he's great. So, but the other person who's the main teacher there is an American from
Mhm.
Philadelphia. Yeah, he's been there for a long time. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Ah, do people go for shorter stays for like a month or something like that to
of course, yeah.
yeah, beautiful. Maybe we
Yes, really
can
nice.
link that in the if they have a website, well, we can share it in the description so people can find out
Oh,
about
the
yeah.
the temple in Korea,
Yeah, both in Providence and Center I'll link, of course, but
they have a website. They
yeah.
both have websites.
Yeah, great.
And one's Musang Sa, and that's I don't remember the name of the city it's in, the town it's in. It's a small town. And then there's like Providence is in Cumberland, Rhode Island. Yeah, yeah. But they both have websites.
I'm curious to turn to some kind of bigger, more current questions, which are, you know, I was introduced to you by one of our advisors, Kathy, in the context of you having just worked on a new book, Composting Our Karma. And I'm curious also kind of maybe these go together, but in the question of what's your work in the world right now, where are you called to put your attention now? And I know you're the director or the guiding kind of Zen master of the quantum school. I imagine that's a big part of what you're doing. So maybe it's also, what are you thinking about in your in terms of uh, the future of the quantum school and where are you called?
Well, I Zoom every morning with 3 or 4 students, just and I do that 6 days a week. And so I end up speaking to 18 or so students a week, and it rotates. They're all every week. I talk to them, most of them, about once every 5 or 6 weeks. So I have a lot of people I talk to in that way, and then I do usually at least one retreat a month, where I'll go to LA or some, I go to different places, and I'm going to Europe in a couple of weeks. I mean, and actually in a week. I'm going to Europe for 3.5 weeks. I'm going to several places and doing 3 retreats and a lot of like, I'm going to like 6 countries. So it's going to be a really quick one, a quick visit. But so I've been trying to be accessible. And I just got back. I went to Hong Kong in October. We have a wonderful temple in Hong Kong. And I went there for their Kilche for about 10 days. And so I'm trying to make myself, because I'm presently the head of the school. I was in Korea. I guess I was actually in Korea in October, and I was in Hong Kong in January or something. So I try to visit those places once in a while, and then mostly I just go around teaching retreats in America.
Mhm.
So I'm keeping active that way, but mostly, and I do a lot of retreats on Zoom we have an online Sangha, the Quantum School Online, which is really doing quite well. And we're doing a whole Dharma teacher and training thing with the global community. And a lot of people have signed up for that. So even though they're already, we have a category called You're a Dharma Teacher, where you can have a group, a Zen group. You can't give interviews, but you can lead groups and lead the chanting and lead the practices. And so they're just we've developed a much longer, I think it's a year and a half training program that I think 70 people have signed up for. We were surprised how many, and they're from Asia and Europe and America and North America. So that's really good. So we were trying to really keep our practices fresh and alive and really listen to each other. And um, well, every 3 years, the Quantum School has what we call it the whole world is a single flower. So every 3 or 4 years, we have a conference where we gather, and a lot of us, we had one just this past October in Korea. So it's either in Korea or Hong Kong or North America or all in different areas in Europe. So we've been doing that for many, many years. Zen Master Seung Sahn was really into having us all just really know each other and learn from each other and not get like that. Zen centers run pretty autonomous. They're autonomous in lots of ways, which people like that. Nobody's looking over their shoulder, but we do have a teaching manual. What's it called? You sign up for when you become a Dharma teacher, you have to sign this. Oh God, the contract. I can't think what we call it, but you have to keep the forms. You don't change the forms. You don't change the chanting. You don't change the number of prostrations. So we chant. We have a certain liturgy that we keep it the same, and it's like a McDonald's. It's like a franchise. So we try to keep all the Zen centers with basically the same practice, the same forms. So if you go to a retreat in Europe or you go to one in North America, they're identical basically. So everybody knows the forms. So it works out really well for people to travel and meet each other and stuff. Yeah. I'm not sure what you asked me, but so I'm watching over. I'm like the last word if there's some real issue, like people will ask me if it's the bottom line of something, or we have four teachers, including me. I'm one of them. And there's a head teacher in Europe, a head teacher in North America, a head teacher in Asia, and then me. The four of us, we're called the International Council. So if there's a question about the Kungans or an ethical issue, we're a little bit like the Supreme Court,
Yeah.
except we don't. We're not always the final word. They might come back at us with, but
Mhm.
what about this? What about that? So, but it doesn't come up very often. Mostly, we don't have any issues. It's really been pretty smooth.
Mhm.
You know.
Mhm.
We're really working on our ethical statement. I mean, we've had one for a long time, but we're really making sure we're having people take courses in healthy boundaries and ethical issues with teacher-student relationships. We're really encouraging that now because, I think there's been problems with not just religious leaders, but many just, boundary issues with power imbalances and stuff. So that can happen. And so we're trying to be much more sensitive about that as well. Yeah.
Well, I'm curious also about you were called to write this book,
Yeah.
Composting Our Karma, and what was the impetus for that? What's maybe the two sentence or I mean 5 minute uh real message or point or thing that was inspiring you to do that?
Well, I was asked many times to do it just because I'm different with being a female and being a nurse and being a mother and just my general personality is we're all different, all of us. And so people wanted for me to write something. We've had several of our teachers write books. And so I've been asked many times. And really what it is we were from the beginning, I was called to give a Dharma talk. My Master Seung Sahn always made us, even if it's only 5 or 10 minutes, to say something about our practice in a group. And one of us would be called each week to give the Dharma talk. So that's kind of unusual I mean, Sansani, my teacher was one of he always made us teach. So and it was like making us in the beginning because it just was really hard. But it turned out if you have enthusiasm, it's just like teaching tennis or teaching how to garden. If you have enthusiasm about it, you learn how to teach it. And so I had a huge enthusiasm for the type of meditation we do and how we do it and the results of it and all the stories I have around how the practice has helped me. So well, I basically a whole bunch of my Dharma talks most of them have been recorded and digitalized now. So the editor of the book was able to bring in, I think there's 15 chapters or something, bring in topics and she just told me to like write an essay about this, and then she gave me a whole bunch of things that I had said, like some of her favorite paragraphs or whatever. And so that's how I wrote the book, was like reading what she thought was really valuable, and then I put it into an essay. So it didn't take long to write. It took a couple of years, just not steady work either. But it's because she was so good at compiling.
Mm,
She really kind of visualized the thing very, very well. If I hadn't had her, it never would have happened. So.
mhm,
Yeah, so I think there's just helpful essays in it. I'm kind of happy with it. I've gotten a lot of good feedback about it, especially I love when they say, "Oh, I gave a copy to my sister, and she really likes it." And sister doesn't even practice, She just she thought it was it's like a new age help book, or something. Like it has a
Yeah.
little bit of that flavor that it's easy to understand, although I'm always drilling in about primary point and don't know and what is this and how you be in the moment. I mean, I'm totally talking about that, but nowadays people really understand that type of language. It's
Mm,
like mindfulness, vipassana, and it's all very much similar. And then what's different about our tradition is really is the constantly asking, how is it just now, and tuning in constantly with the big question, what am I, and how is it just now, and what is this, and just using that as a tool. And so I think it's so important that it was easy to write the book. Yeah.
mm, mhm. Yeah, thanks for sharing. I'll link to that in the video description, and people can find it if they're
Yeah.
called. I'm curious in your perspective on, it's I don't need to say much that to about it being a crazy time in the world right now. People know. But I'm curious if you have reflections or thoughts on what's the role of organizations like the Quantum School or Retreat and deep practice in, I don't know if confronting is the right word, but addressing maybe um, chaos and confusion and in some cases despair that is abundant.
It is. Yeah.
2025.
Well, the quantum in our school, it's like we're the way I see it is we're making little bodhisattvas, like where each of us are learning to wake up and believe in ourselves and follow our vow and our direction. And so I was just at a march. Of course, I live in near Berkeley, California. I live just the next town over. So we had a big march. We have a march every weekend practically. And I go and I have a sign and I keep showing the peace sign and don't destroy our democracy and all these, well, there's so many messages to throw out there. And it's a really beautiful community. And it's not, the Quantum School doesn't run those, Indivisible, MoveOn.org. There's a few of them that really tell you where to show up and when to show up and what to do. And so I'm just really trying to show up as much as I can. I got a bumper sticker on my car that says resist. But we don't tell people that if they voted for someone, if they're Republicans, we don't. I mean, we don't. That's why we don't say you can't come to our retreats if you vote Republican. We don't say that. We're apolitical, but people will come to their own truth and want the truth from their government, of course. And so I think that any practice, any healthy church or Zen community or Buddhist community is going to produce students who are more aware and more engaged and want to help. So that's what we're trying to do, is help people believe in themselves enough to step out there and do something if they feel like they do need to do something.
Mm,
But we don't have a soup kitchen, or we don't have, I give to soup kitchens personally, but we don't say, oh, you should give to a soup kitchen. We don't do that, you know. But that comes out, there's this bodhisattva vow to how may I help comes out from the practice. So
Mhm.
that's really how we do it, is try to make bodhisattvas.
Yeah, yeah,
Turn people into bodhisattvas.
yeah.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I always find it really beautiful going to Sesshin or retreats at Zen Mountain Monastery, and they do a little bit of socially engaged work, but mostly they're just churning out
Yeah.
students who are
Engage
going to
people. Yeah.
do jobs and be
Yeah.
engaged in life, and
Yeah,
that has
but
its own.
it's like two different, it's like apples and oranges, it's
Mhm,
just like if you want to work for and volunteer for a politician or for a movement, then you can do that on your own time, but it's not part of the school. Yeah.
mhm, mhm,
We have a lot of very active students there, and
mhm,
it's been heartbreaking. It's been for me, I had the assumption of, I mean, the whole practice is to try to drop all of your assumptions, your preconceived ideas, and but I never thought things would get this bad. And so I'm just like kind of first, it's been the environment for me for the 4 or 5 years now when I don't see things are just getting worse. And that's been blowing me away pretty much and been pretty depressing. And I don't get depressed, but I feel quite sad and about it. I have two granddaughters, and it's just, I mean, that's one subject that, and I never thought I'd have to face this in my lifetime. I never thought that I don't even know what kind of future they have. And I don't think I'm being over dramatic by saying that. And so that's really, really upsetting to me. And then of course what's going on now with pulling all of our, just taking away so many programs that were helping people with education and health and the environment. It's just been heartbreaking to me, heartbreaking. So I tell people like I've had this idea that it wouldn't ever get this bad. And then so it's like that's what practice is for, to get your foundation, your center strong so you can face anything. You
mhm,
know, it's keep getting up in the morning and doing the best you can.
mhm,
So it's the practice has helped me tremendously deal with just the past, like, the last 5 years, or I don't know how long. I'm just saying arbitrarily 5 years, but things are just kind of spiraling down, I think, and it's pretty hard to watch. Yeah.
mhm. This is a little bit of a related question, also a difficult one, saving the hard ones for last, which is, what advice do you have for young people in 2025 in terms of both, our audience is often interested in meditation, getting established in practice, considering building a life of practice and how to approach that, but also generally young people who are looking at the world and the future and considering like what do I do? And maybe what advice would you have for both of those situations?
Well, I mean, I think that the devices, the phones, and the all this stuff online is really distracting, and I think they've got to get off of some of it. They don't realize what's happening to their brain when I just see with my granddaughters, and they've got to get out and play and notice what's going on around them. And I mean, the march I went to on Saturday was mostly people over 60 and over 70. It was like the baby boomers were there. And some of us said like, well, we're going to be dead, but these people are going to be super affected by what's going on now, or are home looking at their phones. I don't know where they are, but I mean, that sounds like I'm judging them, but they've got to wake up and see what's going on around them. And it's not easy. It's not easy, but they need to listen to some of their elders and realize what's going on, I think. I don't know if they do realize what's going on. We do have, I actually in the quantum school, I'm sure in your organization as well, we have a lot more younger people coming, you know, like showing up at the retreats. It's like the age between 20 and 35. We have a lot of new students, and I don't know the exact demographics of it, but it seems like that generation, I don't even know what it's called, but the ones that 18 to 35, they're showing up. And I think that's their parents are giving, or I don't know. It, but yeah, we have such great techniques to help people deal with life, with mantra and the prostrations and meditation and using Kangan practice. We have great techniques to help people fortify their everyday life. And I just hope they can come and learn them. And a lot of religions do. But people aren't going to, they're not going to, church, or they're not going, yeah, I don't know. What do you think? We're trying to like ring the bells and bang the drums to get people to come, but they got to get off their phones.
Yeah. I mean, it's the core, mission that Dharma Gates is interested in is, um, I don't think of it as trying to convert people, but trying to, for the right people who are interested, who are called, to make sure they know that
Yes,
there are these teachings, and it doesn't even take that long for them to work pretty well.
that's right. They work. For me, it was weak. I was only living
Yeah.
in this for a couple of weeks, and I was using the techniques, and they were really helping me. Yeah.
I still remember my first week-long retreat and coming away at the end and being like, I think that was 30% of my suffering. Like, and obviously there's a lot to do, but I was amazed really at how fast you can find some ground,
Right.
you know.
And
Yeah.
it's getting the word out. And I think maybe we should, work on going to high schools and colleges more often. And because there are a lot of hungry young people that are trying to figure out what to do. Because of course they're upset.
Mhm.
But that's not my skill set to reach out to. I'd love it. When they're there, I feel like I have good communication with
Yeah.
young people. I really do. But these now it's so funny because I just turned 77 the other day. So these could be my grandchildren now. Before I would go, God, I could be their mother. Now I'm going, I could be their grandmother. But I do love them. I mean, I think they feel my affection and my warmth, and I feel like I can engage well, but they've got to show up, that's the thing. And I'm not good at that, like trying to find out how you get them to show up.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
like it. The advice is get off your phones, like wake up and go to the Dharma. Yeah, that's
I mean, we do this one thing, it's called a keto, where we do chanting. Rather than sitting, we're chanting nonstop for like, just break for lunch and break for dinner. And, we just do a lot of chanting, and you get so high. I mean, you get really cleaned out. It's like the Native Americans practice that way with tons of chanting and dancing. And so we do that, and people really like that. And so I think we could be doing more of that, where if the word will get out, like, "Whoa, you feel great when you go to these chanting retreats." But we don't do as many as we mostly love to sit, and we do some chanting, but maybe we have to look at what we're offering that could be more appealing to younger people. I don't know.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot we could talk about in different directions we could go. Uh,
Yeah.
and but I think maybe we could turn to, you know, is there anything else that you feel called to share with our audience, our community, I don't know who all watches the Dharma Gates podcast, but our intended audience is practitioners 18 to 35, young people who are exploring the world of practice and not necessarily settled in one approach, in one method,
Yeah.
and are considering what's really right, what's the appropriate way or expression of bringing these teachings into their individual life. And we try to leave a lot of space for that inquiry and that process. And maybe, for someone who's choosing a method, choosing an approach, um, maybe choosing a teacher, what would you tell them in terms of
Well,
in
they
the
could
process?
try, I mean, we've been teaching people how to do mantra walks, and anybody can do that. And so the two main short mantras that we use, one is Gate Gate Parasam Gate Bodhisvaha. That's in the Heart Sutra. That's the end of the Heart Sutra. And it means gone, 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 beyond, gone to the other shore in Sanskrit. But it's a very popular mantra in Korea and in our community in North America. And it's got a nice rhythm. Gate para samgate bodhisattva. So you when your mind says that, rather than thinking, rather than just daydreaming or just mulling over things or thinking about a movie you saw the night before or whatever, just you to every intentionally with each step, you're just walking with the rhythm of that mantra. Gate. It's very good to walk with. And the ga is down when you go ga, it's in your gut. It's go uh, ga, ga. So G, that ga is strong. So it helps bring your energy down to your belly. And it just gently displaces thinking because you're doing the mantra rather than thinking. And even try to do that for 20 minutes, take a 20-minute mantra walk. Then you feel the result. You'll feel the clarity. Just as you said, and the same thing, I had the same experience when I did a few retreats. It helped me so much with my everyday life. So I think maybe trying a mantra practice that you don't even have to have a teacher or go to a center. But obviously, it's really good to find a center you feel comfortable at and a teacher that you feel comfortable with. That's such a good thing. But just someone who's listening that'll never do anything else, try walking with gate, and see what that is. And what you're doing is you're not thinking. You're just doing a mantra that is pretty much meaningless to you, but it sounds good, and you just do it, and see how you feel. Then that's when you can develop faith in the practice because you experience it directly. Oh, that made me feel better. And that gives you some faith in the practice. Go, oh, maybe if I did more, I'd feel even better. Maybe I should do a mantra walk every day. That's kind of our simplest recipe is a mantra walk, you know. Very non-demand, it's not, you don't have to join anything, just do it, try it. The other one is Kwan Um, which means, it's the saint of compassion, the general vision of a human form of compassion. So Kwanse and Boso, Kwanse and Boso, Kwanse and Boso, Kwanse and Boso. My teacher used to say, it doesn't have to be Kwanse and Boso, it could be Coca-Cola, 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 Coca-Cola. He was so funny. He could be so funny. But he said Coca-Cola is actually a very good mantra because it flows. And it's just, again, it's displacing thoughts, but Coca-Cola is like sugar and caffeine and that's so good for you. So it doesn't have as good of a connotation as like Kwan Boso, Kwan Boso, Kwan Boso. That's about love. It's about expansion. So yeah, that's better than Coca-Cola. But that's how dumbed down it can be. I mean, it's not dumb, it's simple. Very simple. Just stop thinking. Try to stop thinking. You know, as I said, you've done some simple practices where it makes you feel a lot better, right?
Yeah, yeah. Or I'm
You
just
go, oh,
breathing and not thinking and does
yeah.
solves a lot of the problems.
It sure
Yeah.
does. And we don't realize how much with our potential to expand, our mind can expand, our consciousness can hear and see and smell and taste so much. So it improves everything. It just improves your life and it lifts you up. So you're not, it's the opposite of depression, really.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think what I'm coming away with and one of the things that I'm sticking with is there are really simple things, right, that can make a huge
Yes.
off your phone and get becoming present and doing these very simple practices and a lot can change quickly. Like you were saying with, you know, the first time practicing with Seung Sahn and feeling how much it affected your real life and in your nursing career and helping like dealing with hard things like pretty quickly. It's really
Yes.
true. So yeah, hopefully this podcast and everything we're doing can be a resource for people to improve their lives, hopefully quickly.
Yeah,
A
and
lot quickly.
the two of us, you and I are just trying to do that. We're just, because it is overwhelming how difficult things are right now. But you have to keep trying unconditionally, even if you can't say, will this help, won't it help? Just try. Just keep
Mm,
trying.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Just do no harm. At least get up in the morning and say, I don't want to do any harm. I want to try to be helpful.
Mm,
What does that mean to you? And then you start to ask that, like, what am I? How could I, how can I walk through this day and use my potential? And it makes you feel so much better,
mm,
right?
mm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your
Yeah,
time and for the conversation, for your Dharma reflections. And I'll put all the links that we talked about in the description so people can find resources there. And yeah, with that, I think we're at a pretty good closing point. So
oh, good. Well, thank you, Aaron. Thank you. You were easy to talk with. Thank you.
great, great.
Okay.
All right.
Keep up the good work.
Mhm.